Hi everyone, good evening. We'll wait a few more minutes for the other attendees to join our webinar, right? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mita, and welcome to our skill migration webinar, How to Migrate as a Business and Finance Professional. And first and foremost, I would like to thank everyone for attending our webinar this evening. The speaker for today would be our Australian skilled migration expert, Ms. Audrey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
All right. All right. And to let everyone know, why we chose this topic is to let everyone, to inform, to teach everyone that although you are in a business and finance professional, you still have an opportunity because many things that only professional occupations, like accountants, even chefs, cooks, engineers, are able to migrate to Australia. But no, they are like in the 500 Australian skill occupation list. There are many opportunities for business and finance related occupations, and for y'all to try for the skill migration. All right. A little about us. We are an Australian government licensed company that advocates the right migration practices with trust, service, commitment for our clients, our partners, and our brand. We are also different from other firms mainly because we do not have a sales team in the company, as we do not encourage a client to be advised by a salesperson. Rather, your assessment will be only undertaken by our consultants themselves. All right. GMS has been in the radar for around 19 years with a 99% success record and has helped more than 12,000 of families to migrate successfully. And this number continues to grow until today. Also, we are the only migration company in Malaysia to receive the top 25 Global Migration Agency Award, CEO Award by U Global. We have been progressing from being the top 100 in 2018 to being the top 25 in 2022. And this is definitely not possible without our support from our partners, state government, and also our clients. Next, let me introduce about our company and advisors. Firstly, as you can see, we have James Allen Hall, our partner who is based in Singapore, who has been in this field for over 20 years. Next, we have our founder and managing director of Global Migration Solutions, Mr. Desmond Ang. He's a chartered accountant and also a licensed migration advisor for almost 19 years. And we have Audrey, our associate director, and who will be conducting the seminar in a while, who has been in the migration field for over 13 years. We are also we are also licensed with the Australian government to provide immigration advice. As you can see, these are the licensed for Desmond Ang and James as registered migration agents by the Australian government, Department of Home Affairs. You would be able to look up these details in the immigration website. It is always important that you are dealing with a registered migration officer holding a current license, because they would need to complete a yearly CPD to maintain their knowledge in the industry. All right. These are the services we carry. We are pioneers for Australia and New Zealand. We also do investment programs for Portugal and also the US through the EB5 program. Here is our presence. Global Migration Solutions has widened its horizons to countries such as Australia, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Hong Kong. So let me pass the stage to Audrey.
Thanks, Ashmita. Right. Okay, once again, welcome everyone. Good evening to you. It is end of the year and this is our final webinar for the year. Okay, so this year, like we just mentioned, for this month, I think we wanted to create a very good awareness on the other types of occupation, also highly in demand in Australia. As Smita mentioned, many are misled thinking that only if you're an engineer or a doctor or a nurse or IT, then you get to migrate to Australia. So some people are really surprised when they actually hear like, oh, okay, you mean I'm a graphic designer, I can actually migrate to Australia? Yes, you can, right? I'm a marketing specialist, can I migrate? Yes, you certainly can, right? So hence this topic. So we're also covering finance occupations. So just to let you know, the finance occupations that we're covering today is not accounting related occupation, because that comes under another body called Chartered Accountants Australia New Zealand and CPA Australia. So that body basically takes care of assessments for accountants, external auditors, and taxation accountant. Okay, so the finance occupations that we'll be covering today are such as like market dealers, traders, investment advisors, okay, which all comes under the assessment authority body called VETAS. Okay, so that's a bit of the introduction for today's webinar. Now I'm just going to go into why Australia. Okay, I do see that some of you who are attending the session today are not attending this for the first time. So please bear with me. I need to still go through this for the ones who are joining us for the first time. So as always, Australia has been a very, very popular migration destination, winning a lot of awards such as World's Most Livable Cities. So here is a list of why Australia bags this kind of award. So number one, what you need to know is when you're an Australian PR, you actually basically get to live, work, or study anywhere in Australia. And the good part that comes together with the Australian PR is you will also get to be a New Zealand PR. Okay. The pathway to New Zealand right now, it's very tough. So I'm not sure if any of you are actually exploring New Zealand migration. But as part of Skill Migration New Zealand is concerned, it is very, very, very tough to meet the minimum points to qualify for New Zealand migration without a job offer. Okay, so the job offer actually contributes a very high points towards the point test for New Zealand. Okay, now if you're an Australian PR, once you obtain your full PR in Australia, you just have to go to the fly into New Zealand airport and get an on-arrival visa for 2 years. And in that on-arrival visa, all you need to do is fulfill 50% of stay on each of those years, and you will get your indefinite New Zealand PR. So I believe if New Zealand is your destination, you need to do it through Australia if you can't get a job offer in New Zealand right now. Okay, so that's one of the benefits. Then, of course, Australian education system is fantastic, which is why even those who don't have PR basically send their children overseas to study, right? In good universities, you're talking about RMIT, University of Melbourne, Deakin, Curtin, right? These are all the popular universities in Australia. And why do people send their children there? Because of the very high education standards. So as an Australian PR, your children will get to enjoy free primary and secondary school education tuition fees. Okay. And for tertiary education, you would be just paying 30% of what an international student would pay. Okay. So some of you here might have studied in Australia previously and you know how much you pay. All right. So whatever that you had to fork out, what you need to do next for your children is just 30% of it if you have an Australian PR. So that's again something very, very precious for most of my clients, right? Most of the clients who come to us are usually family units, right? They usually have children or young couples who are planning ahead, very, very foresighted for their children's education as well. Then you get Medicare benefits. As an Australian PR, you get to enjoy the government healthcare benefits through Medicare. Welfare benefits are always commendable in Australia. In fact, the previous few sessions I was sharing about how during COVID, the Australian government was giving out some allowances so you just stay put at home and not go out there and infect or get infected, right? But my latest, I just had a chat with one of the clients who met me last week or last 2 weeks. So he was sharing with me about his son who just graduated in 2021. So as you know, COVID was still going on and the son studied accounting and finance and he could not get a job. Okay, he was trying to find for a job and he couldn't get a job. And he told me about, Audrey, you know what? This Australian government, they're so good because he actually had allowances being given to him. So this is what you would have heard about, that when sometimes when you don't have a job, the Australian government supports you. And he told me that the income that the son was getting is very, very close to what he would be getting in an employment. So that's actually a very great support. At the same time, of course, one cannot get too comfortable just freshly graduated and getting monthly income, right? So after 6 months or so, Australian government, one of the reps actually called them in for an interview to see, hey, are you ready looking for a job or not? But what's nice to hear is the type of support that you get, right? Because it was not easy to get a job during that time, and the government is always there to support. Okay, so that's that. And of course, as an Australian PR, you can progress towards citizenship. So you get your citizenship at the 4th year. And this is again something which is very precious for some clients of ours, especially expats who are like working in Malaysia. Citizenship is always what they look forward to. But for those who do not wish to opt for citizenship, it's also fine, right? Because being an Australian PR or an Australian citizen, you basically enjoy the same benefits, except for two things, which is working in the government. Certain government jobs needs you to be an Australian citizen to basically qualify for certain security clearance to join the employment. And number two, voting. Other than that, you get everything. Okay, so that's why Australia is so popular. You don't have to think, for if you are originating from a country that does not support dual citizenship, then Australia can be a very best choice because you don't have to give up your citizenship and just be a PR. Okay, now let's get into the matter right now, right? So everyone wants to, many say, okay, I want to work in Australia, right? I actually want to work in Australia. How do I work in Australia? So our day-to-day, we are always flooded with inquiries and calls coming in, right? So some people just call and say, I want to work in Australia. What can you all do, right? So many think that you just need to apply for a job to get a visa. It doesn't work that way, okay? You need to apply for the visa first. So why is it that you need to apply for a visa first? Because when you start applying for jobs now, which you can try, most often than not, you will actually get a reply from the recruiter, so from the company saying, or asking you, do you have work rights? And the moment you say no, they'll say, sorry, please get your work rights first. Okay. Only if you have a specific, most in-demand skill, niche skill where the recruiter is able to provide you an employment visa. But otherwise, trust me, majority of the time, 90% of the time, you must have your work rights first. So the flow is apply for your visa, then only find a job. Okay. So there are several pathways to apply for the visa. One is general skill migration. Of course, some will actually start off from the start as a student, then they go to graduate visa, then they apply for their permanent residency. Or for some who are really lucky, work visa directly. Okay, so when you have work visa, the employment is already given to you. For these pathways, if you go to general skill migration, so you apply for the visa first, then apply for a job. Okay, then you have work rights. That's what we will be going through today. Okay. So what are the common pathways of migration to Australia? These are the 5 most common pathways. General skill is what we will be covering today in detail. So why is general skill migration popular? Because you get to migrate to Australia. So like I said, to get your work rights, to get your visa without having an employer's support. So there's no criteria that for a general skill migration, you need a job offer. Okay, largely no. But it's just that sometimes some states require this as an added condition. But overall, the program is mainly for a migrant to migrate to Australia on the basis of their current qualification and skills. All right. Then we have global talent. This is for those who are able to demonstrate exceptional achievements. Okay, such as if someone you are handling large projects that are successful, government projects with wonderful outcome, or patents, awards for whatever that you do, or research. Okay, cutting edge and innovation is what they look at for global talent. Then you have employer sponsored, as I mentioned. If you have an employer in Australia who is willing to sponsor your visa, then you can go to employer sponsorship. So just so you know, general skill migration is a priority right now, and same goes to employer sponsorship. Employer sponsorship is also a high priority. You actually get the visa really fast, but of course, you need to first get an employer who's willing to get you a job, okay, to actually give you a job. So if you actually have an employer who's willing to give you a job and they want you to do the visa, you can still get in touch with us. We can assist with that. Then number 4, family sponsor, mainly for parent, child, and spouse. Okay, there's no sibling migration under Australia. And number 5, what used to be once upon a time very, very popular, not once upon a time, just last year, business migration and investment migration. Okay, so for business migration, you need to be a current business owner here in your home country, right? In your home country, and you're migrating on the basis of transferring your business skills and experience to Australia. So you need to run a business in Australia as well. Investor stream, you don't have to be a business owner, you don't have to run a business, you just need to purely invest. And investment, there are 2 pathways, 2.5 million Aussie and 5 million. All right, so that is the pathways that are those are the popular pathways for migration to Australia. Now, take a look at this, right? There are more occupations, but these are the ones that I obtained from the VETASAS website itself. So if you can see here, there are so many skills, okay? Advertising specialist, company secretary. So you're talking about COSEC, not the personal secretary, yeah? The COSEC. Insurance agent, market research analyst, management consultant. What else? Finance broker, right? Finance dealers, market dealers, financial institution, branch managers. Talking about branch managers in a bank, right? So I actually have few branch managers to come to us and say, I didn't know as a branch manager, I can actually migrate. Yes, you can. It's on the list, right? Or even insurance agent or real estate reps. We have a lot of real estate representatives here in Malaysia. And your occupation is actually on the list. So this is just part of it that I'm showing today. All right, it's just part of it. There's 500 occupations on the list. So do not rule out your chance because your occupation just might be there. All right. Now let's look at the criteria. Criteria for someone to migrate as a business or business or finance professional. All right. So how it's categorized is basically what BetaSAS does is they categorize it into groups of occupation from A to E, okay? And group A occupations are basically occupations that are strictly for those who have a relevant degree in the field. Example, you're a chemist, okay? So chemist is on group A. So for chemist, you must have a highly relevant degree. So if you're a chemist and you actually have, let's say, example, a degree in marketing, that's not going to work at all. There's no provision for it, okay? So you're totally not eligible. But obviously, but that also makes sense, right? Because if you're actually a chemist, how can you not study chemistry or something like that? But what's interesting is group B, okay? So group B, there's a lot of occupations where you will just need to demonstrate a relevant work experience of 1 year to 3 years, even if your bachelor degree is not in the relevant field. Example, you're in advertising or you're in marketing or you're a management consultant, right? But your degree is IT, okay? So again, many people think that, hey, I have an IT degree, but I'm working as marketing. Surely cannot. The answer is surely can, okay? So it's actually possible because you fall into group B occupations, right? And that's how it is. So Australian government has designed this very well. So if you're actually doing IT, you actually studied IT, but you're doing marketing, they just want you to demonstrate more years of relevant work experience to qualify for it. And for group C, there are even occupations that requires diploma level. So you don't have to have a degree. Again, this is a misconception that if you don't have a degree, you cannot migrate. But here we are saying, if you're in group C, you can migrate. So what are popular group C occupations? Let me just think about it. Projects. If you're actually like a project manager, a non-IT project manager, you're managing special projects. A lot of my clients who work for NGOs, for example, you work for UN, UNICEF, all this, you're managing special projects. That occupation actually comes under group C. Customer service manager comes under group C. A bank manager comes under group C. Okay, so there's a lot of occupation that actually comes under group C where a bachelor degree is not required. So let us assess that for you. And if you notice, there's even group D that requires just a certificate 4 level. Okay, certificate 4 level is lower than a diploma. So there's a variety of occupations, and I have clients who are in group D, for example. Like example, real estate representative is in group D. Okay, so if you're actually in real estate, group D, you can actually migrate to Australia. And we already have successful clients migrating to Australia under group D. Okay, so I hope this is useful for you, or at least an eye-opener for those who have been thinking that you cannot migrate, right? So for more information on this, on how we are going to assess this, all you got to do is send us a CV and we will do the work for you, all right? Okay, so now I'm going to go into the basics of general skill migration. So in order to migrate to Australia under the general skill migration program, these are the basics you need to meet. Number one, age, you need to be below the age of 45 years old, all right? The best pointer is when you're 25 to 32. You need to meet a point test of 65 points. So 65 is minimum, okay? So this is actually minimum points, and trust me, things are very competitive right now. Back to being competitive. So being at a bare minimum of 65, I don't think it's going to work, okay? Then your occupation must be on the Australian occupation list. So this is what we've been saying from the start. There's 500 over occupations. Which occupation do you belong to? We will determine that for you. Okay. And then you must complete an English test as part of general skill migration requirements. English tests, there are several English tests. There's IELTS, there's PTE. We always advocate PTE. My clients do much better in PTE. So we also provide a free PTE orientation for our clients who have joined us on board in order for them to familiarize on the formats, tips, tricks, what to do in order to score high points. EY invitation, the most important part, which is the make or break of your application. So in applying for an Australian skill migration visa, you must receive an invitation. So now, who invites you, right? That's your next question. Who's going to invite me? The invitation either comes directly from the system. This is for those on certain occupations, or most often than not, it needs to come from a particular state government. So when you apply, you actually would be expressing your interests, meaning submitting your profile containing your points to a variety of states and wait to see who picks your profile. So the more competitive you are, the more in need your occupation is, the better your chances. Okay. Last but not least, you must complete a health check and criminal check. So as far as health is concerned, as long as you're free from critical illnesses, that's fine, and free from criminal conduct. So here's the basic requirements. Let's look at the overview of skill migration program. We look into the visa classes. So there are 3 main visa classes under general skill migration program. 2 visa classes gets you a direct permanent residency, which is subclass 189 skill independent and subclass 190 skill nominated. And then the 3rd visa, which you can see, gets you a TR first that eventually can be converted into a PR. So TR is temporary residence, then you convert it into permanent residency. All these 3 visas are valid for 5 years, okay? All these 3 is for 5 years. Now, for the PR, what must you do in order to maintain your PR? As you can see there, you just need to live 2 years cumulatively in Australia. That's the only condition of the visa once you have obtained it. So easy, isn't it? It's really easy, which is why Australia PR is very popular, okay? So the difference between skill independent and skill nominated is skill independent, as the word says, there is no third party being involved. This is the one I mentioned where the invitation can come from the system directly. So the system is basically programmed before the invitation round, pre-programmed by someone at the back, of course, to select profiles at certain points. And it's very transparent. You get your invitation if you make the cut for the point. Whereas skill nominated is a visa that comes through a state nomination. So let's say we submit your profile to Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, okay? So if they invite you, then you can actually submit a 190, okay? So both of these are direct PR. The 491 is a very interesting visa, as much as it doesn't get you a direct PR immediately. But what's interesting about this is eventually you get a PR. So I think that's what's really important, to make sure that you have either a PR or a pathway to a PR, okay? So this visa, there are certain conditions that needs to be met. There are more conditions compared to the PR. Number 1, you can only live, work, or study in regional areas in Australia, which is anywhere except Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne, okay? So it's not that bad, okay? It's just these 3 cities that you will not be able to be there and work, okay? We still have large cities like Perth, Adelaide, right? You can even go to Gold Coast or outer Sydney areas like Newcastle, Central Coast, and all these places. You can live, work, and study in these places. So why not Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne? These 3 cities are just too populated, and the infrastructure just cannot sustain incoming migrants continuously, okay? Which is why the government designed a program where migrants actually go to other areas, which they define as regional areas. So regional areas are basically defined as lower population and growing areas, okay? So they want migrants to go there and grow the area, okay? So now, how do you convert to PR? That's the second bullet there. All you need to do is in that 5 years, you just would need to submit 3 years of tax statements. That's it. You just need to show this evidence that you have your tax statements for 3 years. That means you've been paying tax for 3 years. Okay? It doesn't matter what you work as at all. So let's say you are applying right now as a graphic designer or marketing or advertising or something in finance. This is just used for the purpose of this current application. Once you get your 491, in that 5 years, you do not even need to practice this even for a day. You can do anything that you want because the basis of your conversion to PR is purely based upon your tax assessment. So as long as you have been getting income and you're paying tax, whether it's employed or self-employed, it's permitted. So very, very straightforward. That's why I say it's a great visa. You still get the most important benefit from this visa. Number one, full work rights. Full rights to open up a business and run your own business if you want to. You get Medicare, just like a PR. And your children will still be able to enjoy free primary and secondary school tuition fees as free. Okay, so not too bad at all. So these are the 3 visas for your consideration. Now let's look into the process. This is the process of skill migration. So the first step is always to assess your skill. So from that 500 occupations, we will help to identify one. The one that we help to identify needs to be assessed by the relevant authority. So let's say you are a mechanical engineer, we need to submit your documents to Engineers Australia. Let's say you are IT, we need to submit it to ACS, Australian Computer Society. If you're business and business professional or finance professional, like what I've showed, then we submit your documents to VetAssess. Okay, so VetAssess typically takes either 1 month on a fast track or 4 to 5 months on a standard route. So once we have your skills assessment assessed, you'll actually get a result letter to say suitable under the nominated occupation of marketing specialist or something like that. Together with the result of the skills assessment, we also need your English test, okay? These 2 documents completed will then bring you to the next step, which is expression of interest. This is the heart of the application. This is where your points are being listed, your work experience is being listed. Basically, a profile that describes your qualifications and experience and just your profile, right? So this profile is then what we submit to various visa classes. So let's say you have good points on 190 and 189 and 491. We can actually submit the profile for all 3. Okay, so don't think that you're actually applying for 3 visas. No, you're submitting interest for 3 visas, right? Once you submit interest, what do you need to wait for? Invitation. So when the invitation takes place, that's when you choose which visa are you going for. Of course, it hardly happens where you get invited at 3 visas at the same time, but the moment you get one, secure it and proceed to submit the visa application. So once you've received an invitation, it's basically you're already very close to your journey in obtaining your visa. Okay, invitations are valid for 60 days. And once you receive your invitation, you submit your visa, and that's when you need to complete medicals and police check. Then immigration process your application. This part to this part takes about 8 months to 1 year, depending on the type of visa. So these are the steps. So nothing is done at one go. Everything is step by step. Okay. Once you submit an expression of interest, there is also no definite time on how long it takes to receive an invitation. But of course, the invitation is always given to more competitive profiles. All right. So this is the flow that you would be going through as well. Okay. So it looks like I am done with my explanation. So I hope there are some takeaways for you from the session. Now I'll pass it back to Asmita for her to conclude the session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Audrey. So, what is next for me? I believe you are well updated on the main criteria to migrate to Australia through the Australian Skill Migration Program. So, the first step you can do is send us your CV or resume for us to assess your eligibility, and also for the second step, after sending your resume, JMS will do the pre-assessment of your eligibility. And we will be contacting you for the third step, which is, to have a free Zoom consultation with us, or you can come to our beautiful office and have a consultation with Audrey. And the fourth step is in your hand, where you can kickstart your migration journey without any delay and make a decision that lasts for a lifetime. So, this is the QR code that will direct you to our assessment page. Also, we are active on the social media platforms, providing you regular updates. And you may scan the QR code to follow our social media and stay updated with the latest migration sessions. All right, guys, you all can scan or take this moment to scan it. And also, so we have now come to the Q&A session. You might type your questions. And yes, let's see. Okay, Audrey, we have a question. How long does it take to typically receive invitation after EOI? And further, any sales or business development roles under the occupation list?
Sorry, can you repeat the second part? The first part I got it. What is the second part?
The second part is there any sales or business development roles under the occupation list?
Okay, sure, I got it. So in terms of invitation, that's the part. As I mentioned, there is really no definite timeline. Okay, it's going to be very specific. So it is something that I usually advise on a case-to-case basis, actually. So for that, it's done in the consultation, simply because we have invitations that can be as fast as within a month. Okay. But just because that client got it in a month, I can't say that you're going to get it in a month as well, because it's totally different profile. Okay. So generally, good profiles, maybe about within 3 months they get an invitation. Otherwise, it really depends on the state's movement. Okay. So very subjective question, but when you come for the consultation, I'll be able to gauge that a little better. Now, back to the second question about sales and business development. Generally, sales-related occupations are not really available on Australia's migration list unless you are doing ICT sales or technical sales, okay? So there used to be like pharmaceutical sales, industrial product sales that has been removed from the list. That's the first part. There is an occupation called sales and marketing manager that's actually assessed by another authority called IML, okay? But the problem in IML assessment is it's a very tough assessment. So just because you hold a title sales and marketing manager here, so let's say you hold a title of sales and marketing manager and you're just managing, it's a small company and just about 2-3 people, you're likely not to get through, because IML's assessment is very subjective and they actually look at how large your organization is and all that. Okay. So what do we do when someone is actually in sales and business development? We try our best to see if we can put you under marketing. Okay. Marketing specialist is on the list. So usually sales and marketing, they always do 50% marketing. Most sales and business development, they do 50% of marketing. And if you do, we can actually position you as a marketing specialist. We've done this many times and gotten the assessment through. Okay.
Right. Wow. Thanks. Okay. Audrey, okay, another question. Was there any business occupations that was granted last year or visa this year? Sorry.
Granted visa.
Yeah, granted.
Oh yeah, I mean that would mean that they actually got an invitation last year. So last year, without a doubt, I think if any of you here have been following the news, the invitations were very much lenient last year. So we had a lot of invitations for business occupations such as insurance agent. At a bare minimum of 65 points got invited. In fact, the person has actually moved to Australia already because the visa was granted in June. They made their permanent move in August. Okay, so insurance agent got the visa approved. We have a lot of PR professionals. Our latest was actually a marketing professional who got a subclass 190 by Victoria. Visa was approved. So yeah, it happens, right? So putting that aside, let's talk about invitations taking place now. We do have invitations taking place now for business occupations. So the latest that we had was last month for public relation professional. This person was at 90 points. So as you can see, it's high points, right? But invitation still comes in. Then our Singapore office actually had an invitation for recruitment consultant at 85 points. So it's still happening. You just need to try, put in your profile, and be as competitive as possible. Do we have any other questions?
Nice. Okay. Another question. So, the fiscal year for Australia, in which happened in July. So, is there anything to worry about for anyone who is in the finance or business related occupations if they're trying for the skill migration visa based on the quota that we got to know?
Yeah, I mean, the quota for this year, which was released in July, which goes up till June 2024, still focuses on skill migration. Okay, but having said that, the quotas are mainly used for granting visas that are already in the system. So the new government is very, very, how to say, they're very driven. Okay, they're very, very driven to basically clear the backlogs that was unfortunately left during the previous administration. So the quotas are also, the government's first approach is reducing backlog. So they're using these quotas to reduce backlog. So only part of this quota is being used for new incoming profiles. Hence, I mean, we have about more than in terms of state nomination, we have more than 10,000 for this. Okay. So, but in selecting the 10,000, they are getting more selective, of course, which is why you see higher profiles like 85 points, 90 points getting selected for invitations. So no concern, you should still try, right? Because we are already, by the time you start the process now, we are technically actually going on to June 2024. Okay.
Nice. All right. Okay, another question. So, you mentioned that we have to do the English test, right? Like IELTS or PTE. So, do we like have to be very good, like, or it depends. Like my English, does it need to be very good, like Australian accent, and so?
No, you don't have to have an Australian accent in order to pass the English test well. So first of all, the English tests are British based. That's number one, right? And number two, accents don't count. It's your usage of your vocab, your grammar, your sentence structure, okay, is what matters. And even then, IELTS versus PTE. I can't stop talking about this, right, forever. IELTS versus PTE. IELTS is really an exam that tests your English level, like really your English level. But PTE, to a certain extent, you may end up scoring very well if you're able to memorize the flow and the way you should respond to the questions. So that's the thing with PTE, right? So once PTE took over, now IELTS is really overshadowed. Okay, IELTS is really overshadowed because most migrants now only talk about PTE. They want to score the highest points in PTE, and especially superior scores. So superior scores are talking about band 8 in IELTS in every component, which is not easy to get. But with PTE, 79 each component, many can get. So I always tell clients, please try your PTE.
Nice, nice. All right. There's one question, but it's not much related to business. Okay, so the question is, I work in the human resource information system in a shared services company. Is this occupation eligible and is it listed?
I would need to see the CV because my consultation today at 2 p.m. was actually someone who is in shared services working in human resource. But that particular applicant's tasks were very much HR in nature and not so much of like just processing. So we need to see exactly what you do. If it's merely more like a data entry in a HR base, then no. But if you're actually dealing with like you need to know HR policies, compensation, benefits, the whole lot, then yes, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what the setting is, but it's your task. Okay.
Okay. So,
I guess we are done. No more questions, is it?
yes. And I think just now we have a little time for the skill assessment QR code. If you can go back again, little while, give them some time to.
Sure. This one?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
So yes, please send us your CV at enquiry@globalmigrationsolutions.com or call us anytime at the given number there. We are happy to help you. And if you're after receiving your CV, we will assess your CV and contact you for a consultation with our team.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward for that. So it's the end of the year. I'm not sure if you already have your resolution for next year. So if your resolution for next year is to award yourself with another residency, a second residency, a change in career, a change in life, or something, and if you're looking at migration, yeah, you can start it soon with the assessment first, because migration is not a short process. It's not that you're going to get a visa within 8 months or 9 months. No. Trust me, a normal skill migration journey would take you at least about 1.5 years. That's one of the shortest, I would say. We have had 1 year and all that, but now I can see it's getting about 1.5 years. So plan ahead, right? We are here to provide you with a free assessment, a free consultation. There is no loss to you. We don't force you to embark on the process with us. So get yourself assessed and see if this is for you. If it's for you, then only you take it forward. Okay. So I also want to take this opportunity to wish all of you a very happy holiday and a happy new year in advance. Okay. And we are here to assist you for anything that you need in terms of your migration needs. All right. Good night.
Right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for staying up to now. End of the webinar. Hope to hear from you soon.